last week at Bristol. Jimmie Johnson had his first win at the track, his third win in 5 races in 2010. But the important number here, it was his 50th Cup Series win, joining an elite club, 50 Cup wins, joining drivers like two-time champion Ned Jarrett, Hall of Fame inductee Jimmie Johnson. These 3 drivers are now tied for 10th on the all-time win list. And earlier in the week, Jimmie Johnson had a meeting of the minds with Jimmie Johnson and Ned Jarrett, and what better person to mediate that summit than our dear friend, Ken Squire.
The pantheon of NASCAR greatness is so often measured by how many races you win. It's all about winning. And for 44 years, 2 men have been principals in that, call it, top 10. They were Jimmie Johnson and Ned Jarrett, and they join us today. Jimmie Johnson was the guy who was right to the floor all the time, and then the other fellow was a totally different kind of personality. Ned Jarrett, they said, was conservative. There's no way that you could ever call him conservative, but smart, cunning, calculating, he was all of that whenever he was in a race car. It seemed appropriate at this time when there is a new member of that group, making it a threesome at 50 races. Californian, different kind of guy. They all share one thing together, and that is desire. So Junior, from your estimation, and you had all kinds of guys race your cars, even at the time you were retiring. You had Bobby Isaac, who I always thought was as good as anybody that ever came down the road. What is it about Jimmie Johnson, again, leaving the equipment, which you know a lot about, out of the equation, that is putting him where he is today, 4 championships, and on the cusp of taking you 2 fellas really out of the top 10 among all-time winners?
Well, he don't wear his car out, for one thing, and he don't tear it up until he gets it to where he can bear down and drive it better than anybody else. And that's a pretty hard accomplishment of being able to sit back and wait till you have a pit stop and you adjust on it and you do this. Darrell Waltrip was a lot like that. Cale was sort of like me. He drove it where it was ready to drive or not. And that's not the very best way to do it. And I think that's a lot of his success that he had.
Ned Jarrett, a perspective on the new entry into 50 victories on this very tough circuit.
Well, I see Jimmie as a sort of a cross between Junior and I. As far as our styles were concerned, we already established the fact that Junior was flat out belly to the ground all the time. Jimmie can be that way when he needs to be. Now, I took care of my equipment, tried to be there at the end of the race, and I ran for championships, whereas Junior didn't. And so I knew that I needed to finish the races to gain points and also to get as much money as I possibly could to keep going. And Jimmie has shown that to me, that he's a smart race driver, takes care of his equipment, and when the time comes to go, he goes. I think Darrell Waltrip said on television a few weeks ago, said that he was the best closer that he'd ever seen. And I think that he's proven that, because he'll sit there and he'll be in the top 10 or get up in the top 5, and they think, well, we got him beat today. And then all of a sudden, he's beaten the rest of the field, and that's not just happening. There's a plan behind that. He's got it in his head, his crew has it in their head. They know what to do, know how to win, and he certainly knows how to push that button and turn that wheel at the right time.
Best closer. How do you feel like when you hear that you're the best closer from a guy like Ned Jarrett and Darrell Waltrip?
Can't help but smile and to hear these things. I have so much respect for these guys and what they did to build our sport where it is today. If they weren't the characters and studs they are, we wouldn't have a sport to race and compete in. So to have Ned and Junior and DW say those things are really cool. Again, it's kind of mind-boggling, because all I've known is the little world I live in racing and trying to be better at what I do. And to have the success be there now, and to be in this elite club, 50 wins, it's being said, I kind of feel like I'm watching a movie at times. It's a weird experience.
Well, now that you're here, you've won 50 races, 4 championships, and all that money. You are ready to retire?
Negative. No. I hope to continue simplifying the sport for myself. I think that has been a big key for me, and really not paying attention to numbers or totals or whatever that is. And there's something inside that car when I climb out of it, I know when I've done a good job. And it's not always the fact that you're carrying a trophy. There are days when things don't go your way and you get up on the wheel and you earn your money and you get the best finish you can, and it might be a 15th that day. And that feeling is what I live by and I've always lived for. Because like we said earlier, I didn't have all this great success growing up, and there was something that kept me coming back to the track week in and week out. And as long as that fire's there and that desire's there, I'll be in a race car.
Well, 54 isn't that far away. Say bye-bye to Junior Johnson and Ned Jarrett in the top 10, and 55, Rusty Wallace is right in front of that. Does that ever cross your mind?
It is starting to now. Especially when I tied Cale with 3 in a row. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to where I fit into history, and then that kind of activated my mind in that area. And then to win the 4th, and then now to be where we are in win totals. Even at certain tracks, you know, we've won a lot of races at some tracks and are challenging totals there as well. So it's a new part of my life that I'm paying attention to, and I'm excited to challenge those titles.
So we've been discussing the triumphs in winning 50 races, to be part of that very special group at the top of the heap with Junior Johnson, Jimmie Johnson, no relation, and Ned Jarrett. So Jimmie, here we are, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and you're sitting between 2 of the true legends of this game, legends of the sport. What's it make you feel like?
It's pretty darn amazing, to be honest with you. I spent so much time in my little world in Southern California and didn't learn a lot about the sport because we didn't have the TV packages and all that we do today to watch and view our sport. But with that said, I knew these names, and coming to the East Coast and being around and seeing Junior in the garage area and Ned, I knew these names and just looked at them like, they had some magical answer as to how to be successful in the sport or something. I don't know what it was. It's just,
well, look, that's what it is.
That's Junior Johnson. That's, it's wild. But now after experiencing the wins, and I see young kids look at me now and think that I have some magical answer, I guess now, you just go out and do what you can. And I'm so honored to be where I am today. Find it quite amazing to have won 50 races at the Cup level. And to be here between these guys and on the all-time win list, it's really special.
So let's talk to the experts. Ned Jarrett, how much further do you think in the career of Jimmie Johnson will continue to be like a skyrocket?
Well, I think that he has at least another 10 or 12 years of racing the way that he's doing it now. And no telling how many championships he might win or how many races he might win. He certainly has the talent, and he has the equipment and everything behind him and the people that is needed. And so I think the sky is still the limit as far as he's concerned. It just depends on how long he wants to do it.
Junior Johnson?
Ned's correct on what he says. He's good health. He takes care of his car and stuff, and he can go a long, long time. He's certainly got everybody, by the throat right now.
He certainly does. Is it hard to think that now you are them, that it's your responsibility, as Jarrett proved and as Junior Johnson proved, to continue to let the sport grow through them as representatives with those young people that look up to you and can emulate you? And it's so important today, particularly for this game, because this is a tough, rough game.
It is a tough game, and I feel like as time goes on and I have more years in the sport, that I develop more of a voice and earn the right to kind of stand up and help represent the sport. I know I have 4 championships and 50 wins now, and that should give me a lot of credibility, but I feel that time in the sport and time in age in life before you really start saying things and pushing your weight around. You just need a little bit more of that. So I feel like I'm kind of coming into my own and finding my legs on that right now. And I still love to hear and see, you know, the involvement from the guys that have been in the sport forever and ever. I mean, their voices and what they have seen over the years really helps us young guys understand where it came from and how stuff worked. And history has a tendency to repeat itself. And maybe the sport's bigger now in some respects, but it's still the same cycle. It goes on and on and on. And before I get too mouthy about things and try to carry too much on my back, I just need a few more years to understand everything.
So there you have it. 3 50-time winners. 2 of them have hung around in here being part of the game for 44 years. And 1, brand new guy, just within a month. And the future for NASCAR racing, I don't think has ever looked much rosier than it does now. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.